Okay, if you don't have time to level up a second character, then that's understandable, and you don't have time. I understand myself because I've been working on the second character for a few weeks now and the progress is slow. And if you don't see a logical reason to get a second character, that's also fine because it's at your beck and call to play the game however you wish. But I believe that there are benefits to getting a second character. And even for folks like us who have limited playtime, experience from the Division 1 has taught us that a looter shooter requires room to store a lot of your bounty, especially if you're limited on time. You save all the good stuff, and when there's a new discovery, a change in the meta, then you have all the tools that you need that are available for you to be able to put together a build or keep up with changes, which are very rapid in a game like this. A second character is not just something that is for bragging rights. I don't care about that. I think it's more of an investment and pretty much nothing more. Because after playing the Division 1 for about 3 years, with massive amounts of content which became available over that 30-something month cycle, 14 different gear sets, high-end builds, mods, and all of the other things, it was very impossible for enthusiasts like myself to store all that loot in one character. So a second character, and even a third character at one point, was actually necessary. And by the way, I also have 3 characters on PlayStation 4 as well. So when should you start creating a second character and why? The answer is simple: the moment your loot becomes full. Because it may seem like a chore at first to create, a second character, have to level that character up in some cases, but I think it's an investment in time that you're not going to regret. And the reason is because you cannot judge a Division game based on what you have currently. Things regularly and frequently change and will change over the course and the life cycle of the game. And even if the changes come, many people may say, well, we can advocate for the increase of the stash size space. Well, I can understand that argument, but to be honest, I don't think that the stash size is going to change much, because as it stands, the loot drop rates are pretty much just a little bit higher than the Division 1, and we no longer have to store weapon mods, and we also have an extra 100 slot space for gear mods. So with that in mind, I think Massive feels like, from the data that they received in the Division 1 going to 150, I think that they believe that this is a sweet spot to have for space size in your stash, and then maybe 100 for a backpack. In fact, right now, the backpacks are actually limited to 100 items, which back in the Division 1, you could have a backpack that actually carried a little bit more than 100. So I don't think there's going to be any more additions to, your loot space in the future. And then the second important thing that I feel like we need to look at when we're talking about a second character is the raids that are coming. Because currently, we may say one way or the other that the meta is stagnant at a point, but I believe that when raids are introduced into the game, they're going to produce build diversity, which is very much desired within the community. And so this is my opinion. Currently, a lot of players are just building with the meta. Everyone is doing the damage meta, and rightly so, because it's actually the more efficient way to farm. It's a more efficient way to complete your daily missions. And in context, it makes no sense for you to get a big skill build anyways right now. In fact, it makes much less sense to get something like a hazard protection build. But that does not negate the fact that there may be build possibilities currently in the game that will work when the raids are released. There are many ways to build in the Division game. It's just that there's no context to use those builds, and it makes no sense right now for you to make a build that can give you like 30, 40, 50% hazard protection. But what about the future? What about the raids, and what are they going to look like? Can an 8-man team, all running Unstoppable Force, Fenris, hard-hitting, P416, sharpshooter, 1 million headshot damage, successfully complete a raid? The answer is we don't know yet. But from experience, I know that a team, when a raid shows up, is going to need a dedicated healer, a dedicated crowd controller, and somebody who does decent support, as well as a DPS player. You're going to need those 4 things to be able to run Division missions as you go down, because that's just the way the Division game has always followed the formula. Many of the difficult missions require for different builds to show up on the scene and get things done. So imagine an enemy wave spawn sequence where all enemies hit you and your teammates with poison bullets for 1 minute. Maybe outcasts. A bunch of outcast bosses show up on the scene, they spawn, and every single one of them has poison bullets. It would be really nice to have hazard mitigation on your version of your perfect AR build for such a scenario. I mean, definitely. Right now we're running the Fenris, the Unstoppable Force, the Berserk. But what if you had those same pieces and you had them on brand sets that gave you hazard protection, and all you did was just throw them away because they were not fitting the current meta? The second character can come in handy to not just store the items, but actually use to explore items that may not be in the meta, because right now we may depend on one another as the community to share ideas, but there are many, many more ideas that you can discover for yourself as a player. Just think about the Division 1. It was pretty fun to have a dedicated reclaimer playing on your team when you were running through Dragon's Nest Incursion. If you were playing through Clear Sky, a Final Measure and a Nomad were a killer combination to carry those fuses. And in Stolen Signal, your D3 builds came in very handy against those miniguns. So I don't think pure damage builds are sustainable if the upcoming raids have any similarities to the Division 1. And so it'll be very wise to store as much good items that you get, especially now that we've hit World Tier 5. I think it's a no-brainer. You have to keep all the good stuff. And if you want to destroy them, then that's fine. If you want to sell them, that's fine as well. A lot of people will argue that we get spoiled with a lot of loot, but I would say, especially if you have limited time, every single item that you get is a potential game changer for you, and keeping that in a second character is an investment for the future, the time in front to come. Because the Division 2 may be full of surprises like the Division 1, and I hope it's good surprises down the road, and I hope a lot of different builds can come up when we start farming and grinding through these raids. And so if there are any other benefits to having a second character other than just the loot, I think they're just minor perks. That's just my opinion anyways, because, you know, you can do things like maybe farm on a second character and have a better RNG variation for loot drops, because, you know, sometimes your main character cannot get anything, and then the second character is just, you know, always endowed with some of the good drops. And so it's always nice to kind of have that variation going, because now you've expanded how far and how wide you can farm for items, and how much more the RNG can also drop more random items for you, which increases your chances to get specific things that you may need. Even the so-called low-level gear mods, I think, are probably going to stay the way they are. And I think they're probably going to be very viable as we continue to go on. So even though many people are saying that the developers have actually acknowledged that they didn't intend for this to happen, I think the developers are going to have to find a way to tweak skill power in order for them not to break the whole game. Because for the low-level mods to be able to fit and for the high-level mods to not be able to fit, that's a conundrum for them, because they'll either have to do away with those, or they'll probably have to rework skill power, which I think reworking skill power is actually where they are. But at the core of it, the loot, the roles you wish to play, and kind of the diversity of the way the game can be played or will be played are the driving factors for you to work on a second character. The current meta seems boring because there's no context to use most of the build mechanics right now. And so we're at a stalemate. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there just to help answer some questions. I remember when I mentioned this in my World Tier 5 video that you needed to create a second character, I got a lot of pushback. And I wanted to just open the floor for more of a discussion on just this specific topic. And I appreciate you guys for encouraging me to put out this video, because like I said, I had seen that someone else had done the video, but you guys were like, it doesn't matter, drop the video anyways. And so please leave comments about the topic on hand. Let's have a discussion whether it's important to get a second character. If it's necessary to do so, I want to hear your opinions. So that's all I have for now. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and I guess I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.